All right, guys, I think we are live, which is exciting. So, introduce myself. My name is Andy Risvold. I'm owner and president of Forgotten Star Brewing. I am joined here with Matt Schwant, owner and president of Bauhaus Brew Labs here in Minneapolis. And we are hosting today really a conversation on fostering a thriving culture in brewing. We're going to talk about a few things today. Really, we're going to start with defining culture. And we'll give it a minute just to make sure everyone has a little bit of time to join. So we're going to slow down just a pinch. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about defining culture. We got to define culture before we really get into the conversation, right? We're going to talk about why strategy matters and what it is. You really can't build your culture or refine your culture until you have a strong strategy as a team and as a business. And then finally, we're going to dive into culture and why it matters, how we can improve it. Matt is very humble, so I'll introduce him a little bit, and I'll let him tell his story. But beyond being a president of Bauhaus Brew Labs, Matt also works a lot with culture. He's truly an authority on the subject. He facilitates culture groups here in the Twin Cities, where he gets leadership teams, leaders from all sorts of different business sizes, groups of 9, and he walks them through culture on their specific teams within their business and how to really refine it, grow it, and make it a place that not only the leader and the owner of the business wants to be in, but their employees and teams. And then myself, as I said, I own and am president of Forgotten Star Brewing here in northeasternish Minneapolis. It's technically Fridley. We've been open since November of 2019. We've had a lot of fun. We have one of our general managers actually going through one of Matt's culture groups as we speak. So there's a lot of congruencies there. But Matt, I'll let you take it away and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of why culture matters to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and thanks everybody for joining today. This is really exciting for Andy and me to be a part of. And I'll also just mention that Andy is also an advisor to a consulting group that we both work for here in the Twin Cities, and has a lot of authority on the subject of culture as well, and just leadership and strategy in general. And he's done a fantastic job with his brewery. They're a bright light in Minneapolis's brewing community. They do fantastic work, and it's exciting to work with him. I founded Bauhaus with partners of mine about 10 years ago, and like most people who start a first-time business, was pretty lost. The brewing, I had that down, but a lot of the other aspects, which turned out to be some of the most important aspects, maybe the most important aspects of running a business, are things like, how do you create a great culture? A culture that retains employees, a culture that values creative input from all sides of the organization, and creates a culture of trust that makes people want to stick around and contribute to the brand. So that's something that I've learned over time just through experience, a lot of building the airplane mid-flight. Fortunately, I now have tools at my disposal that I've learned over the years and through my consulting work that I'm able to share with others to help them improve their culture. And as we'll learn today, it really all starts with leadership. If you want to see culture, the culture that you want to develop is something that you need to start yourself. This is one of those circumstances where it's be the change that you want to see in the world. If you want to have a great, thriving culture, it starts at the top.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And to piggyback off that, really almost all of us, I would say, who started a brewery and got into this world and this business, I do feel like are building the plane as we're flying it. This is an opportunity. Thank you to Craft Brewers in this talk that we're able to, sit as a industry, slow down a little bit, and get the best tools in each of our businesses to elevate not just ourselves, but the entire industry. So I appreciate you guys being here and taking the time. The one thing I'll say before we really launch into this too is please use the comment section. We want to answer questions that you guys have regarding culture. We're treating this almost like a podcast style interview, asking Matt all sorts of questions regarding how to have the best culture in your business. So we get to serve you much better as the viewer if you enter comments, and we can talk to you. Finally, on the last slide here, we'll have our emails. Feel free to email us both anytime. We want to talk with you. We love talking to other brewers. We love helping each other's businesses. There's no fee associated with anything we're talking about. All we want to do is talk to people and help each other grow, because we're going to learn just as much from you as you guys are going to learn from us. So email us, make comments, and let's talk together. So with that said, let's define culture. And how Matt and I define culture. Culture is how we think, act, and interact in our business. There's a lot of different ways that people want to define culture, but truly, when you think about it in terms of business, in terms of what's going on in your four walls, it's how you think, act, and interact. And how you think, act, and interact really trickles into everything, right? So if you are rewarding some people and not rewarding others, or if you're holding some employees to one standard and not holding others to the same standard, that's trickled throughout the business and people feel it. And the other thing about culture is you have one whether you like it or not. Every business has a culture, and you either are cultivating it and working on it and improving it, or you're not. And if you're not, what does that look like? Who is that affecting? And ultimately, it affects the end consumer and the person coming in to drink your beer, because they will feel it. If you have a negative culture, if you have a strong culture, if you have positive attitude, negative attitude, that trickles all the way into the experience of that first sip of beer. So culture to us is the most important thing that a business can have, but it's not the first thing. The first thing that you need to do as a business is to look at me with these slides. I did set up slides. You need to build a strategy. I'm only going to touch on this lightly because the purpose of this is culture. But without a strong strategy, all my words went away. Without a strong strategy, you really aren't able to build a culture. So I apologize. This slide is only showing half of what I have on there, but really what we're talking about strategy is that core vision, that core focus, those core values, building a great accountability chart, having strong KPIs, making sure everyone in your team understands why you exist as a business, making sure they're in the right seat and know how they're to be held accountable. Strategy really is the foundation. It's the first little piece. It's not easy. I shouldn't say it's little, it's actually really difficult. You caught me. By the way, we're on day one of our 2-day annual planning session as we speak. I've taken a 40-minute break for this presentation. So strategy is always front of mind for us, and we're working on it every single year. And without a strong strategy, you can't build culture. The strategy has to come first, so people understand who they're working for, why they're working for you, who your team is, why your business exists, and ultimately what their role is and how they're held accountable. I love this Jack Welch quote: "Good business leaders create vision, articulate the vision, and passionately own the vision relentlessly driving to completion." So why strategy matters is because without it, you can't build forward. There's no consistency, there's no accountability, and there's really no purpose. And you need those three to push forward and to elevate your entire team moving forward. So crafting culture. This is from here. We're going to treat this truly like a podcast, where I'm going to ask Matt some questions. He's going to answer, and then what we really appreciate is questions from you guys listening. It doesn't have to be live here in the moment. If you're watching on YouTube a day or two from now, great. Email us a question. We would love to have the conversation with you. But if you are watching live, please comment, because we're here for you. So Matt, with that said, let's start. Question number 1. Can you share some insights from your experience about building and maintaining a strong team culture in a brewery?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what I was saying earlier, it really all starts from the top. So what we're really talking about is leadership. And I define leadership as the ability to guide, influence, and inspire others to achieve a common goal. And I'll even go a layer deeper. It's not just leadership, it's conscious leadership. And what I mean by that is conscious leaders have a self-awareness about how their actions and behaviors impact everyone around them, including employees, peers, managers, customers, vendors, whatever. It's being aware that asking employees questions rather than just solving their problems for them can empower autonomy and growth. And it's knowing that if you expect respect from someone, then you also must show respect for everyone. So culture really starts at the top, because what leaders do, everyone else follows. And a conscious leader will embody certain mindsets and skill sets that they want to see used in teams and individuals in the organization. So like, for example, some of these mindsets and skill sets are that you have a vision that you can articulate for your team to really understand and get energized by. It's having emotional intelligence. That's kind of a buzzword right now in business strategy and culture circles. Emotional intelligence, and for anyone who's unfamiliar, it means having a self-awareness about how you're feeling in a certain situation, that you can take a moment to pause and reflect on how you're feeling and respond instead of react. That pause is really important, to be able to understand, like, what am I experiencing right now? How are others perceiving me? Because if I want to see, certain behaviors modeled back to me, I've got to model those first. Because like I said, leadership starts at the top.
Yeah, you got to practice what you preach.
Exactly. Yeah, because people pick up on that. If you have a lot to say, but you don't follow your own advice, people see that as maybe a breach in trust.
Mm-hmm.
And another part of fostering a great culture is establishing trust. In fact, I would say that trust before results is really important. What I mean by that is, if you create a culture that is focused on creating trust in your environment, having open dialogue, engaging in healthy conflict, offering constructive criticism, making people feel welcome to share ideas, things like that, then the results will naturally follow. When you have a high trust environment, you're going to get good business results. And there are statistics that prove that out. In fact, I would refer the group to a book called The Culture Climb that recently came out. It's actually the consulting firm that Andy and I do some work for. It was written by the CEO and her partner, Jamie Tates and Chelsea Paulson. It's a great book for learning more about culture. It's a real deep dive, and it has a lot of data in it to support why culture is so important for any organization. It's industry agnostic.
It's really a toolbox.
Yeah, absolutely.
That last third of the book is all tools.
It is. It's tools that anyone in any organization can use too, to better their team culture.
Yep. Can you give an example? Because I want people who are watching this to be able to walk away with some tangibles. Can you give an example? You said some, like, hot words there, but like being a conscious leader, or can you give some examples of what that looks like in the day-to-day?
Yeah, sure. So right now, in fact, at our brewery, we're about 10 years into business, and our initial vision for the business needs kind of a refresh. And so we're looking at new markets, new opportunities, new beverages to explore, new categories. And so almost on a daily basis, I'm speaking with employees, trying to get ideas, and I'm trying to share my ideas so that we can find alignment for our vision for the future. It's that open dialogue that lets people know, like, hey, I'm empowered to have a voice at this table. And sure, like, there's leadership that articulates the vision, but hey, I can contribute to that vision. And the more that we express that openly, in a high trust environment, the more likely we're going to land on something that kind of empowers and energizes all of us. So I think it's just having that rapport on a day-to-day basis that really helps. That's one example.
Yeah,
I would say another example is that we have quarterly checkups with all of our staff to also foster that dialogue. And it's not a performance review. It's just an opportunity for everyone in the organization to provide feedback openly about what's working, what's not working, what can be improved. What do we see coming down the pike that we need to be aware of? But just having that open communication is so important, because, honestly, almost every business issue can be reduced to a people issue. Mm-hmm. And so having that open conversation allows you to connect with your people to make sure that they have what they need, the tools to do the job that they need to do.
And that's why the strategy piece is so important first, right? Because if the strategy piece is there and your team knows what the standards are, why your business exists, what their role in that business and in that accomplishing that mission is, exactly, and like how they're being measured, it removes a lot of the emotion and creates some objective standards, and then you can pile the culture on top of it. So then you can, as you hire for specific people that fit your core values and fit to accomplish your mission, you're able to have that conversation with them in a lot different tone, as opposed to wrong person, wrong seat, bad culture, et cetera, et cetera. What strategies or initiatives have you implemented to ensure everyone on your team is aligned to the same vision?
Well, one of the first things we did is I remember coming home from CBC in 2019 and thinking, okay, we've been 4 or 5 years in business, but boy, does it feel like we were just improvising the whole time. We were just winging this. It's time to get a little more organized. So at the end of 2019, we implemented an operating system that probably a lot of people here are familiar with, Traction EOS. For those who haven't heard of it, EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's a way to organize the business so that you start building in some strategy and accountability. And the ultimate goal is to identify the right people in seats in your organization and to have them aligned around common goals and vision. That ensures that all stakeholders are going to understand the mission or vision that you have for your business, and that you're all aligned on short and long-term goals. I would say outside of something formal like that, we've always kind of had a mind for developing culture. And even though we didn't really know that we were using some of these culture tools from day one, we recognized the importance from day one about having a great culture. And we're now a lot more intentional about maintaining and improving that culture. And we've got tools at our disposal to do that. But we knew, I think pretty much everybody in the world has had a crappy job or worked in a crappy environment or a low trust environment at one point. And we knew that that's not the kind of environment we wanted to have at Bauhaus. In our case, we are a family-owned business, and we wanted it to feel like a family. And I know that gets overused a lot. Every company wants to feel that it's like a family environment, but we really do live that out on a daily basis. And I think that our culture reflects that. And we've also got some anecdotal data in that we have a really low rate of turnover in our brewery. We still have some OGs, some people who have been with us since day one. So 10 years, it's pretty great retention rate.
That's amazing. How have you had to adapt culture over those 10 years? Like to, not just within your own organization, but to stay relevant in the industry and to stay relevant with all the other breweries popping up over the course of 10 years.
Yeah. There have been a lot of changes. Things are so different now in the marketplace than they were when we started. A lot more competition, a lot more segments have opened up for craft breweries. Hard seltzer wasn't a thing that I thought we would be doing, and now it's like really big for us, and so are cannabis beverages, other non-alcoholic beers. But from a cultural standpoint, I think that we had to come to terms with some blind spots that we had early on that did cause some problems. Number one, like having direct conversations with people, having enough vulnerability to provide constructive criticism to people who maybe needed to be nudged in a certain direction as far as performance. Those are always tough conversations to have, and that gets to conflict. Conflict is not fun for anyone in any organization, but it is a necessary part of business, and what I would call healthy conflict, where you're providing constructive criticism, you're being honest, but you're also being respectful. Having that healthy exchange of ideas and constructive criticism will actually foster more trust with people, even if you're criticizing them, because you're being honest, you're being vulnerable. In fact, I think it's actually a sign of poor organizational health if there is no conflict, because all that's happening in those situations is you're creating an artificial sense of harmony. And that's eventually going to blow up in your face.
100%. And oftentimes we see leaders who are afraid to have a difficult conversation, and what they end up doing is the mistake that I see them making most often is they overhire. They add positions and roles because they're afraid of having a difficult conversation with a team member who's not pulling their weight or not following through the expectations that their leader needs.
Yeah.
And that obviously leads to a disaster on many levels. One, you just gave somebody a job who's counting on you to be their employer. Two, you've never addressed the real issue. and 3, financially for the business is unsustainable, which all of that, the root cause of all that is the fear or inability to have that hard conversation. And you really owe it to everybody on your team to have the hard conversations with the people that you need to. If you have A+ performers who see you avoiding hard conversations with F performers, guess what that A+ performer is going to do? They're going to regress to the mean, and they're going to go from an A+ performer down to a C performer, or they're going to leave your business and find a leader who wants to help them thrive as that A+ person.
Totally.
The one of the biggest weaknesses I see is, and this is across all industries, not just brewing, is leaders who are afraid to have hard conversations. And when they are, that trickle is way worse than a 15-minute difficult conversation you're going to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're getting at is actually the distinction between a leader who has a growth mindset and a leader who has a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
This is another thing that's kind of prevalent in a lot of business strategy and leadership training circles these days. But when you're afraid of obstacles or you see obstacles as annoyances, I mean, sure, things get annoying sometimes when unexpected hiccups occur, and that's kind of a daily occurrence. We always say, like, if something hasn't gone wrong, then we should be wondering what we've missed, what we're ignorant of. But something with a growth mindset, they have enough ability and intelligence to improve things over time with dedication and effort. They see obstacles as opportunities, as pushing them to grow, and they embrace feedback, even if it's negative, because that also provides an opportunity to learn and grow. You can contrast that with someone with a fixed mindset who believe that their abilities, intelligence are just like innate traits that are fixed and are not adaptable, and they have a fixed view of their capabilities, and they avoid challenges because they see those as just impossible things that are happening to them, not opportunities that occur for them to grow.
That's a great distinction there. This is happening to me as opposed to this is happening for me. And that mindset shift for a leader is huge.
It's a subtle one, but it makes such a huge difference.
Yep.
And if you don't have a growth mindset in this competitive marketplace that's rapidly shifting, I mean, good luck to you. But you're playing life on hard mode.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. So again, I hope we got a lot of brewers out there watching this, and I want them to really walk away with a nugget. So I know brewers are numbers people. I don't touch the beer. My partner, head brewer, touches the beer, but he's a numbers guy, and I think there's a lot of numbers guys probably listening and watching this. So give me some key measures or some key metrics that measures culture. Like how do you know culture is working? How can you get a pulse on what your culture looks like? How can you really get that objectively, that no nonsense number to say, oh, I got a great culture, I'm going the right direction, or I got a crappy culture, I need to fix some things?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think that culture is kind of a nebulous concept for a lot of people to really quantify with metrics, but it is possible. First, like I mentioned earlier, we have regular check-ins with our staff. These quarterly conversations give us a pulse on what's going on with the staff. It's a good indicator of where our culture is at. We look at whether we have the right people in the right seats. We ask staff what's working, what's not working. We have also evaluate whether each person gets it, wants it, and has the capacity to do it. And then, so what I mean by that, and this is traction parlance for anybody who is unfamiliar with that, but if the person gets their role, they understand it, they have a great comprehension of what their role is, what they're required to do they want it? Are they enthusiastic about it? Are they passionate about it? And then do they have the capacity to do it? Is their workload too heavy, too light? Do they have the drive to want to do it and the capacity to do it? We also look at other financial and business metrics, though, because culture impacts all of those things. people's experiences at high trust organizations differ dramatically when compared to experiences at low trust companies. And here are some numbers. This is from the Culture Climb book. But people in high trust companies, 74% report that they have less stress. 106% express that they have more energy at work. 50% indicate that they are more productive. They have 13% fewer sick days, 76% more engagement, 29% more satisfaction with their lives, and 40% less burnout. So for those of you out there who are concerned about metrics and bottom line, you can see like having a great culture greatly impacts employee productivity and the bottom line financially.
And everyone listening has felt great culture, either in their own businesses or a business they grew up around or worked in their early job. Everyone's been a part of a great culture, and it's truly palpable. When you're excited to show up to work, when you're excited to be around the people that you work with, when you're all pointed in the same direction and a common vision and a common mission and a common call to stress, but a common goal, it is an exciting, palpable feeling that it's hard not to be around. And even with our own business, even if we don't have the strongest culture, there are moments within your own business where your entire team is doing that. Maybe it's throwing a big Oktoberfest event and everyone on team is all hands on deck, and you can feel that energy. You can say, holy crap, we're working as a team. I can feel this. That's what great work to be around. That's what they want to feel. That's why they are wanting to work with you, because they feel it. They feel like they're part of something, as opposed to showing up and punching clock. And we're going to define culture in our own ways here in a minute. But to me, that's what my definition of a great culture is. Outside of how you think, act, and interact, it's really, being around a group of people on a common mission to accomplish great things and feeling good about it. Great culture has a lot of trust ingrained into it, has great communication ingrained into it, and it's a special thing that once you are part of it, you feel it, you want to always be around it. And it's never done. It's never like, oh, culture's good, we're done now. It's a constantly evolving work of art. You have to have your thumb on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what advice would you give to brewery owners like day one? Like let's say House Brew Labs is opening tomorrow, or you're hiring your first employee tomorrow. What are you wanting to do early on to make sure culture is strong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, kind of what I've said already, it's so important that you understand that creating a great culture starts at the top. It's about leveling up your own leadership skills, knowing what your staff requires as a leader. Because if there's no conscious leadership, there's not going to be any trust. And if there's no trust, there's no healthy culture. So level up your leaders first. And there are plenty of resources available out there these days on how to level up as a leader, how to become a conscious leader. I would strongly suggest reading the Culture Climb book. I would also suggest Pat Lencioni's book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. This is a great book that illustrates a lot of the same things we're talking about here. What can go wrong at the leadership level that degrades trust in an organization? I would say it's a lot about self-discovery and taking initiative to be the best leader that you can be, and understand that your behavior and how you show up affects the whole organization.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. My follow-up question to that was going to be, there's brewery owners out there who maybe know they have a terrible culture, and where do they start? And your answer, I think, resonates to that too. You got to start with yourself. If you're sitting in your business now and you know there's something wrong with your business, there's something wrong with your culture, and you've got high turnover, you've got disgruntled people, or deep down you're avoiding hard conversations, you got to look in the mirror and start with yourself. It's not the most fun exercise, but it's important. And then don't be afraid to ask for help. Once you understand that, hey, I got an issue, you're not in this alone. If you're watching this, you're part of an industry with hundreds of people just like you who have gone through the same fight. Just don't be afraid to reach out and ask for advice. That's why we're here. And
That's
again,
great.
Not for pay. Ask your brewery up 2 miles away for help. I mean, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you try to do this alone, you try to repair a negative culture alone, you're in for a really long, lonely fight, and it doesn't have to be that way. be vulnerable, be willing to ask for help, and grow.
I would say even look outside the brewing industry. See, find other local companies that you can see are really thriving, because it's pretty obvious when a company has a great culture. Or maybe you hear about it from a staff member at another company. Like, engage those leaders, ask them to coffee, ask them to lunch, see what has worked for them. Because a lot of this culture stuff, it's industry agnostic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is. Same with strategy, right? I mean, you can have somebody come talk to you about strategy who knows nothing about beer. I mean, I'm having it today. So, yeah, it's a good thing. And it forces your team to grow, and it forces your team to look at things from a different perspective.
Yep.
And you get a lot of creativity comes out of those moments too when you get outside of the industry.
Exactly.
All right. Well, to wrap things up, I really only have two more questions for you, Matt, that I want to ask. The first one is, just give us a memorable success story or lesson learned from your journey in building team culture, and then I want you to conclude us with what your definition, what Bauhaus Brew Lab's definition is of a great team culture.
Sure. I'll share a success story. So, we are known for throwing some pretty high-profile, large-scale events at our brewery, and these events are successful mostly because we have a team of dedicated staff who all believe in the culture that we've nurtured over the years. And so, one example that I can give of this is this past summer we had a large-scale music event at the brewery, and this is a ticketed event. There were literally thousands of people lined up down the street to get in at the time doors were supposed to open. And we had like a monsoon storm come through like 30 minutes before doors, and our parking lot doesn't have drainage. This is where the stage was set up. This is where all the people were going to come in to watch this show. And it was a pond. So literally every member of staff, without even being prompted, it didn't matter if they were in production, taproom, marketing, sales. Me and a lot of the other leaders on our team just went out to the parking lot, got squeegees. Fortunately, we're a brewery. We have plenty of those. Got some sump pumps, and we cleared that parking lot in about 15 minutes because we all knew that, hey, if we want this to happen and we want this to reflect well on our company, we've all got to pitch in and do this. And we even had fun doing it. It was a lot of work, but it was just like, oh man, we're all out here together. We're doing this. Like, there's a lot of camaraderie, and it was a really successful moment for us over the summer.
And because the people, I myself hear that, and I know there's people who run their breweries who just heard that story, and they say, gosh, how in the hell do I get to that point? How do I get my team to all grab a squeegee without being asked, and to go above and beyond and do something for the greater good for my business? What obviously it's a much longer answer than you do this or that, but give beyond everything you've talked about, where does that come from?
I think it really all comes down to how much trust have you fostered with the organization over the years? How much have you empowered people to contribute, their own ideas or efforts? And I think that a good idea for the company can come from anywhere. In fact, we live that out as far as choosing beer names. We'll put those to the whole staff and offer like $25 gift card to Amazon if they have the winning name. And it's just a fun exercise, for people to put names out there and stuff. And we do that for in a lot of different ways in our brewery. But that kind of buy-in is what you're trying to foster, like people who actually care about the vision and know what needs to be done to achieve it.
Where I think it comes from, at least, the origin story of that kind of culture comes from, one, you had a great vision, you've communicated that vision well, and you hired people who are aligned to that vision and who understand what it is. So because you had that great strategy in place, you had your strong vision, you're able to hire very specifically to it and knew exactly the kind of people who fit on your team the way you wanted them to fit.
Yes.
So when the monsoon comes, I got a front of house and back of house full of go-getters who are gonna come work with me.
Yeah, and
we're gonna do this together.
That really speaks to having the right people in the right seats and knowing what that person looks like before hiring them.
Yeah.
Having a good idea of like, this is what we want for this person or this position. And a lot of that comes down to core value alignment. And this is more on the strategy side, but when you have well-defined core values, you know exactly who to look for to add to your team.
When you interview based on core values, then, and they know, even in the interview process or even in the job description, hey, this role is not for me, or this role is for me.
Right.
It all, to me, it all comes back to that.
Yes. And, I would say 9 times out of 10, when you hire looking for core value alignment, you're going to end up with a really strong person in that seat. If you don't, which happens sometimes, there can be a values misalignment, and then you have another decision to make. And maybe you can coach that person into having a value alignment, but maybe not. And that speaks to a lesson learned for me over the years. For many years, I was unwilling to engage in conflict for the betterment of the company because it's uncomfortable. No one likes that. It feels difficult.
Got to do it.
You've got to do it because otherwise you got the wrong people in the wrong seats, and there's a lack of authenticity there, and people see that. They're like, staff looks around and they say, oh, this person really isn't pulling their weight, or there's a misalignment here, and leadership isn't doing anything about it.
Yep.
So there's
if we're not doing it to that person, what's in it for me to do the right thing?
Exactly. Yep.
Well, one more question is just as good as you can, define culture your own way. We've obviously defined it as how you think, act, and interact, but I want to hear the Matt Schwant version.
Yeah, I think that it's about showing up your most authentic self every day to the best of your ability to get people on board with your vision and to be excited about doing it and working towards this common goal. I mean, our Bauhaus, one of our core brand tenets at Bauhaus is actually a philosophy taken from our namesake, the Bauhaus School in pre-World War II Germany. And that is that work, play, and celebration are all intertwined. And so that's something that we take really seriously and that we try to foster on a daily basis, that we work hard, but we celebrate together, we play together, and we see that being lived out by our staff all the time. And so we lean into that pretty hard.
I guess before we say goodbye, I do need to say, Matt, next time we do this, I need you to remind me to wear a hat, because your hairline and my hairline on screen together is not looking good. I got some stuff to work on. Got to have some fun. To everybody watching, please reach out to us. Our emails are really simple. Mine is andy@fsbc.beer. It's the initials of our brewery, andy@fsbc.beer. And Matt is matt@bauhausbrewlabs.com. We're very easily available on LinkedIn, social media of all sorts, and of course email. So we would love to have a conversation with you guys about your culture, about your business in general, even strategy. It's fun stuff. It's a fun time for the industry, despite what a lot of people are feeling and seeing. I think this is an exciting time to be in the brewing industry, and seeing everybody pivot and make things work and get creative is, inspiring to be around. So we want to have those conversations and be around with you guys. And Matt, I'll leave it to you with any parting words.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what you were alluding to. I mean, this is kind of a challenging time in our industry, but as conscious leaders, it's sort of important for us to look at those as opportunities for growth, for innovating. It's like, where can we go from here? Okay, let's see what opportunities are available to us, because obstacles are a catalyst for growth. And when you can accept that and embrace it, who knows what you're going to think of? Right now we're sort of articulating a vision for the next 5-10 years of our business. And honestly, it's a really empowering exercise. It's, we don't know what the future holds, but we're excited to explore it. And I think that having that sort of curiosity and willingness to engage in that kind of thought is energizing our whole organization, despite some of the market conditions around us.
For sure. All right, well, we appreciate you guys watching. We hope to hear from you. And until then, cheers.
Cheers.
See you guys.